Coming up, I play Maserati tech, the exhaust dance, ends in a crash.
Jesus!
And can we actually fix the beating heart of the GTS?
Throw this into the garbage.
I pulled the trigger on this 2013 Maserati Quattroporte GTS that racked up 301,000 kilometers.
It's blue.
The V8 in the GTS makes 530 horsepower and sounds like this. Except this one doesn't.
I think the hood is bent now.
It arrived in a very poor and broken state. The engine is heavily misfiring and throwing codes for timing on bank 2. After troubleshooting in the previous episode, we confirmed that the issue is the physical timing of the engine. The compression test revealed low compression on bank 1 and high compression on bank 2. As the timing chains on this Ferrari F154 engine are on the back, it's time to remove the engine and troubleshoot further.
Let the games commence. Bit of protection because the paint is in good condition after all. Let's start off by draining the oil. It hasn't been changed in a while, but no metal shavings, which is good. Oh. Oh my! I guess this hasn't been off in a while. Jeez Louise. Wow, really ugly. Let's start prepping everything in the engine bay. Air filter, which looks pretty nasty. That needs changing. We need to pull down this clip here and release the air duct. I removed the clip entirely because there's no space to lower it. Ridiculous. Okay, now we can go up top and see if we can pull out the air box. Disconnect the mass airflow sensor. Oh, there's something else on the bottom as well. There's another connection on the bottom. We need to remove this front part of the fender liner. That's the line that we need to disconnect. Here's the MAF sensor. Let's see if we can remove this cover. It's kind of in the way. It's loose there, but there's one bolt on the bottom here that I removed. And there's another one here. It seems like it's loose. Nope, I think you need to remove the front bumper to get this out. It's pretty ridiculous, but whatever, I guess we're gonna leave that alone. Let's at least remove the electric fan so you have a bit more space in the front of the engine. So unplug the connector. Had to unclip 2 lines on the bottom. Hopefully now it can come out. Or you know not. Okay. The fan is out. That was ridiculous. Way harder than it should have been. But now we have better access to the front of the engine and I can disconnect all these. Well, there's about 3 million lines here. We can drain the coolant in a civilized manner. Attach a hose here. There we go. That's done draining. Got about 6 liters out. It's not a lot. We can remove this pipe here, get it out of the way, and then unclip it here. You can disconnect the intercooler piping here. Gotta break that seal. A tiny amount of oil in here. What kind of clamp is this? I've never seen this before. I guess we're gonna break it. Clamp. I'm gonna plug the intercooler so we don't get crap inside of it. We got a clean bag here. Gonna do the same on the other side. 2 connectors here that we need to disconnect. All right, nice. That's coming down with the engine. Look what I found. This is a power steering line, and this is presumably a power steering temperature sensor. It's not plugged in, look. And it's been unplugged for a while. It's pretty dirty. So that's why we have the code for that, and hopefully why the fan is constantly running. Now we're gonna drain the power steering fluid by disconnecting this line here. Clean a bit first. That hurt. There it is. Get ready for a shower. So that's the banjo bolt removed. Now I'm gonna disconnect these 2, I believe, coolant lines. The more I work on this car, the more it looks like an engine that was never removed, let alone rebuilt completely 30,000 kilometers ago. Of course, going everywhere. Free shower. Okay, now this one here. It's gonna find a suitable cap for that. Now and it's plugged, as well as that as well, and this. Perfect. Now I need to disconnect the lower radiator hose. Does that look like a hose to you that was removed 30,000 kilometers ago? Because that would have to be removed in order to get the engine out. The upper rad hose. Oh my lord! That's everything disconnected in front of the engine apart one AC line, to which we'll get to a bit later. A small coolant hose on the expansion tank. Weird clamps. Another coolant line. This one is coming down with the engine. There's some sort of vacuum line here. The line from the PS reservoir to the pump. Nice. I'm waiting on the AC guy to show up so we can empty the AC system. In the meantime, we can remove the windshield cowl here. I think I'm gonna need to remove the wiper arms. Yep. Gonna mark their position with tape. Here's the AC guy. Hit the pause on this. And the system is empty. The AC system is now completely empty, which is really important. Nice bunch of guys. Local tire shop. I went. Oh man, I guess I'll find the other one once I drop the engine. Let's continue with this. Alright. The cabin air filter. Jeez Louise, look at that. It's like it was never changed. It's properly nasty. I'm thinking let's remove this bar here. Let's disconnect the DME. And we have another connector here. We have an oxygen sensor here. Good. This line here. Okay. The positive cable. The battery is disconnected. And then the rest of the cable we need to trace down into the fender. We need to remove this fender liner here. Can disconnect the positive cable right here. There. Now we can pull out the positive cable, and it's gonna come down with the engine. The oxygen sensor. Looks like we have another cable here. There we go. 2 coolant lines here. Ah, great, more coolant. That's both of the heater core lines removed. The AC line that goes down to the compressor. So this is now empty. Just air. And it still spilled a bit of oil. This coolant line as well. So the AC condenser line goes through here. That's the AC line disconnected. So that's absolutely everything disconnected in front of the engine that needs to be disconnected. Let's remove this reinforcement plate. Let's attack this beautifully sounding exhaust. Silicone spray. Very easy. What now? It's stuck. Hey now, don't scratch the bumper, man. Yeah. It's really light. Like, look at this. Mi piace. Where are we gonna put this now? Jesus. Okay, Luigi, it appears we're stuck. The support bars. This one needs to be replaced. Oh, my ears. Let's get this X-pipe out, I guess. All right, wonderful. Man, this exhaust is light. I mean, this is, look, one hand. Kudos to Italians for making a proper exhaust. Got myself a snack here. Cantuccini. Pretty sure this is what all Maserati Ferrari techs snack. It's good stuff. So far, it's not that bad, I gotta say. The heat shields, what kind of stupid clips are these? Oh, this one is bent. Who invented clips like this? What the f is that? It's not that bad. The center shaft bearing is good. Now I need to remove the prop shaft, so let's unbolt the CV joint. I don't know why it has 2 nuts here. Maybe there's a reason for that. I don't know. And now the flex joint. And again, to me, this doesn't look like something that was off. Fantastic. Mark the position of the center shaft bearing. This is what I'm saying. How was this engine rebuilt 30,000 kilometers ago and all of this looks like it hasn't been removed in forever? Okay. Prop shaft is out, and this is a properly beefy prop shaft. The center shaft bearing is in excellent condition. That is remarkable. It doesn't make not even a tiny bit of noise. Need to remove this bracket here so we can unhook the transmission cable. Again, how was this removed 30,000 kilometers ago? Starting to think that entry in the service book is complete nonsense and a lie. I don't see how this engine was ever out of the car. Like, if you look at the transmission bolts, like bell housing bolts, they don't have a mark on them. They were never off. Now we can unclip the cable. Then unclip it on the top as well. All right, that's the cable disconnected. The ground wire. Oh, that was somewhat loose. We need to remove this fender liner. Crappy fender liner. Why did I make it out of this shit material? To collect dirt. Now we can disconnect the lambda sensor. Okay. Can remove this little heat shield as well. Okay. Disconnect the connector from the steering rack. Now I need to disconnect the steering column. Ah, you can only go in one way, that's wonderful. Now this is pretty weird. Looks like this bracket cracked and then they repaired it with that. I don't know. Now we have two coolant pipes here for the transmission heat exchanger. Well, ain't that precious. That was awful. Are you telling me I didn't have to remove these? Now that I'm looking at it, it doesn't seem like I had to remove these lines, but the repair manual said I should remove them. We need to pop this ball joint here. Right, the correct tool. Now we need to unplug all of the connectors and the brake caliper as well, because the entire hub assembly is coming down with the subframe. All right, brake pad wear sensor, the caliper. Gotta spread the pads. I'm gonna remove the brake disc as well because it's very heavy and it's in the way. Unbolt this bracket here. Now I'm gonna unbolt the sway bar link from the sway bar. Sway bar is torqued to 1,000,000 Newton meters. The shock bolt. Have you ever seen such sway bar link in your life? So that's everything on this side ready to come down. Now I'm gonna copy paste on the other side. Found two more connections here. This is the fuel line, I believe. It goes to the injectors. There's still fuel under pressure there. There's another line here. There we go. Then this support arm here. Let's break out the table. Is this table gonna be long enough? Well, no. Shoot. Here's what we have. I supported the subframe in the front and the back as well with wooden blocks. Then we have 4 bolts holding it in, and the entire thing is gonna drop down. Unfortunately, the transmission is really long. It's actually longer than the table itself. So I can't support it here by the cross member, which would be ideal. Instead, I'm supporting on the sides with hockey pucks and also somewhere in the middle where the transmission meets the engine. So I'm gonna first start by slowly unbolting the cross member and let's see how we fare. And I also supported the car in the back, very important. Fantastic. Torx E20. All right, that's all of them loose. I'm gonna leave them slightly threaded in, just in case. Very, very slowly. Now I'm gonna remove the bolts all the way. Can tell you already that this is gonna be painful to put back in because the chassis doesn't have like locating slots for the subframe. So basically it's gonna be a lot of moving around to get to start the bolts. While BMWs, they have little thingies sticking out of the chassis to go into the subframe. Anyway, how's it looking? Good looking. Yeah, I removed the coolant hoses on the side of the transmission for nothing. It looks like we're clear to land. Bob's your uncle. Honestly, this wasn't that bad. Compared to the German Beamers that I normally work on, it's a bit easier on them. Like disconnecting some of the stuff, it just makes more sense. But all in all, not bad at all. As the tradition dictates, we gotta ride this blown up horse. These are in the way. It's not that comfortable. I think the M3 was more comfortable. What do we do now? I don't know. Throw this into the garbage. It's one option. Or we can fix it. Gingerly. Let's take it into the layer over there. Don't scratch Project Rottweil. I think here it'll be fine. We need to unbolt and remove the transmission so we can access the timing covers and the timing chain. So let's start unplugging stuff. Did that break? It sounded like it did. It looks like it didn't. The repair manual was wrong. These coolant lines should have been disconnected. Now I'm gonna disconnect them here so I can get them out of the way. Yep. That's the positive cable that goes down to the starter. Let's put that on the side as well. Now we're gonna undo torque converter bolts. Now I'm gonna use this special tool from the timing kit to rotate the engine in the front and position all of the torque converter bolts so we can get to them. Six in total. Now you gotta remove the doglytic converters. There's a clamp here. It's fairly loose. Now we can undo the transmission nuts. Let's start divorcing them. This thing is really, really heavy. There is no way that I can lift this on my own and put it on the ground. So I need to come up with a solution. I need to transfer it from here to something here. I'm not sure how smart this is, but I'm thinking to slide the transmission over onto the transmission Hugh Jackman and then tie it to this, and that way I can roll it around. I don't know if that's gonna work, but let's give it a go. Let's remove the cross member. That's about perfect, I think. So what do you think? Is this gonna work or am I gonna break my legs or the engine? I don't know, you know. They are officially divorced. I think that's good. Aren't I a genius? Don't think that's going anywhere, but let's just put it somewhere far, far away. Let's remove the flywheel. This looks good here. The rear main seal was not leaking. Let's remove the crank position sensor. We need to remove this heat shield here. Oh, I think I found the source of our leak. Yeah, that was definitely leaking there. Cut the zip tie. So you can see we had an oil leak from this connection here that we'll need to address. That's out. At this point, I'm just following the repair manual and removing stuff that it tells me to remove. So there's a connector here. Repair manual says that this is an oil pressure sensor. There you go. We need to disconnect the cable on the alternator, which is behind this pipe that goes to the turbo. So I'm going to remove this and hopefully we can access it. Hello, turbo. You got play? Not too bad. You can see the connector just barely. Oh, we're gonna have to remove the turbo. I can't believe it that they made it that way. Ah, that is so dumb. So good news, we need to remove the exhaust manifold with the turbo in order to disconnect the connector on the alternator and then remove the wire. So this would pretty much be impossible to do with the engine still in the car. Disconnect this line. Coolant. Anyway, let's remove this line here as well. To be honest, turbos I would probably want to remove anyway, because I would like to have them checked, refurbished. I don't know if they were ever replaced, but at 300,000 kilometers, we need to look at them, and now it's a perfect opportunity. Oh no, this one is pretty rusty. It's gonna snap, isn't it? Ah, of course, snapped. Like this here, right here, it's dumb design. That I have to remove this entire stupid thing just to get the connector out. Instead of making another connector here to disconnect it and then just get this entire wire out of the way. But now, I gotta remove all of this. Disconnect the oil line. Another heat shield. There we go. Hey, that's loose. No, there's another line on the wastegate. Oh, come on. So I need to remove this one here. Okay. Wow, all of that to get to this. Amazing. Okay, I don't know much, well, anything about turbos, but there are some slight chunks missing from the impeller, like some slight damage. It does have a tiny amount of play, and given how difficult it is to remove this thing, we are going to send both of the turbos to Topmar Motorworks from Poland. Let's finally remove the alternator cable, which is, oh come on, it goes underneath, no, behind the engine mount arm. This is the point where I miss German engineering. It's only one wire. Why is the connector so big then? I should have just cut this wire. I'm making an executive decision here, and we're going to snip this wire here. Otherwise, I would need to lift the engine out of the cradle and bolt the engine mount arm, and then I can extract this cable. Can't do that because you need special tools, like hooks that go to the sides of the cylinder heads, and then I can lift the engine. I don't have those tools, so we're simply going to cut it here, and then I'm going to get good quality crimp connectors and just make a connection here that's, you know, removable in the future. Nice. Let's unbolt this here. You're going to remove the turbo on this side as well so we can get to the starter. Here's a line on the back. There we are. Move this line as well. It's the coolant pipe. No. Oh no, it goes underneath into whatever the that is. The routing of the wires on this engine is apocalyptically bad. It's terrible. So that's somewhat loose. I can't do anything about this cable here, so we're just gonna have to slide the cover around it. So let's start unbolting the bolts, but first, a bit of compressed air, clean around the perimeter. So I'm gonna make a template out of a cardboard. So I assume these bolts are gonna be different length and whatnot. So there's one here. missed two here. I think the starter will come out with the cover. Yeah, I need to remove the starter. That's the starter barely out. The starter fell out. I think it would be prudent to send this starter to be refurbished because it looks like it's a nightmare to replace it. Can we slide it out? And it's out. The cover is off. Look at this monster. Finally say hello to the magical timing chain and the guides. On the first glance, everything looks perfect. So why did it jump timing? Now I'm gonna remove the spark plugs so we can easier turn over the engine. I got this nifty, beautiful hazard camera that my man Philip sent me. And now we're gonna look inside of the cylinders and look if we have marks on the pistons, which would indicate valve and piston contact. That way we'll know for sure if the valves are bent or not. This one looks good. I can see marks from my camera here, but nothing from the valves. This one is good as well. So no indication that the pistons and valves have been in contact, which is excellent news. Let's quickly look on the other side. Clean as well. So all of the pistons are clean. No marks on them. I just noticed something. This is the bank where the timing is off, and this chain here is all loosey-goosey. But let me turn over the engine a bit more and see what happens. So now the slack moved here. Now it has no slack. What was that sound? And now it's loose again. So this one is constantly tight. This one is loose. So I think we have a problem here. That would explain it, wouldn't it? See, when it does that, this becomes very loose. Okay, I gotta look at the footage and see what happens when that click happens. But yeah, I'm willing to bet this is the issue. Something is nicht gut here. I just watched the footage so I can see where that snapping noise was coming from. When I turn the engine over, there comes a point where that snapping noise happens, and this cam variator, Vanos in my world, snaps forward, and then it creates a slack in this chain here. That ain't good. And when I take a ratchet here, what? This bolt is bolted through the variator to the camshaft. So how is this happening? When I try to do it with this one here, you can't because it's turning the cam and the chain at the same time.
We found our issue. A bad variator. Variable valve timing, or VANOS in B&W world, is a variator system used to control and vary the intake and exhaust timing. It can advance or retard cam timing throughout the rev range, which enhances torque, reduces fuel consumption, and lowers emissions. It works based on engine oil pressure and it's controlled and triggered by solenoids. This engine has 4 variators and 4 solenoids. 2 for intake cams and 2 for exhaust cams. The variator for bank 2 intake camshaft, for which we were getting codes, has failed and is freely alternating the cam timing. You can see that as I turn over the engine, the chain is turning the variator, but looking at the bolt, the camshaft is staying stationary until the variator reaches a certain position and then it violently jumps forward, thus no longer correctly controlling the timing of this camshaft.
So I'm thinking at this point, let's try and lock the timing. Need to remove these covers here because that's where the pins to lock the cams go. I'm gonna do the same on the other side. This is the timing tool for this engine. This is the tool to rotate the crankshaft in the front. These are the pins to lock the camshafts, and this is the tool to lock the crankshaft. Now we need to turn the engine over until we see threaded holes in the camshafts. Well, I can see it coming. There they are. You can see them exposed. How about on the other side? Yep, they are exposed here as well. So this one went in. How about this one? So the repair manual says if the pin doesn't want to fit, I need to rock the chain and see if I can get it to align. Yep, that went in. So bank 1 is locked. And now on bank 2, I can't start the pins because the timing is off. So when I do this, I can see the cam moving, but not the variator. This means I should be able to lock it now. Yeah. That's the cams locked. Now I need to lock the crank. So this goes in here, holes go there. And now you gotta make sure that the pin here engages with the tool, which it does. I don't like this. The bolts supplied in the timing toolkit are completely wrong thread and we can't use them. Okay, I had to improvise. These are the flywheel bolts with washers and sleeves because they're otherwise too long. Just snug them up. And snug up this one as well. Okay, that's the crank locked. So let's remove this variator here and see what's what. First we need to compress and lock this tensioner here. So you need a pin for this, which I don't have, but I think I can use my screwdriver. Right? Yes. To loosen this bolt, we need to turn clockwise. So I should be able to slide it out. I'm going to remove this timing chain guide here. The guide looks good. 2012, so these are original timing chain guides then, if that's the date there. Yeah, this one here says 12 as well. So all that nonsense that this engine was rebuilt was... And the variator is out. There's a washer here in the back. So now ideally, if I had another one, I could install it and then see if we can get the engine in time correctly and do a leak down test. So it looks like something internally is bad with this variator. Don't forget the washer here. I just called a local Maserati dealership and one of these bad boys is around 490 euros brand new. I don't want to spend that kind of money unless I'm certain that I can fix this engine, that it's fixable. In the meantime, I want to reinstall this, get the engine back in time, and then I want to do a leak down test. To do a leak down test, we need to get the pistons at TDC, top dead center. Piston on cylinder number 1 is at TDC, and the valves appear to be closed. So let's perform the leak down test. That is 1% loss, 1 to 2% loss. That is fantastic. So cylinder number 3 is at between 1 and 2% loss on cylinder number 3. That's really good. This one, 1% loss. I finished the leak down test and here are the results. We have 1 to 2% loss across all 8 cylinders, which is absolutely perfect. It hardly gets any better than that. And it definitely means that we don't have any bent valves. This just showed up, replacement variators, aka Venus units. I bought them used from a guy from Lithuania. He's spotting out 3 Alfa Romeo Stelvio with the Quattroporte 2.9 V6 engine, and the part numbers are exactly the same as for the V8 engine. I went for the used ones because the new ones are just shy under 2,000 euro, and these are very low mileage, between 50 and 30,000 kilometers, and I paid 480 euros for 4 of them with shipping, express shipping, so I can get this video done in time. The reason I went for the used ones is because A, they typically don't go bad. I mean, they did on this engine, but it has over 300,000 kilometers, which is pretty unheard of for them. The previous generation of the Quattroporte and the Ferrari engine had massive issues with variators, that's very well known, but this generation, not so much. There's nothing online about it, and talking to some other people as well about this engine, they typically don't have issues with variators. But again, this is very high mileage, so they failed. And D, I didn't want to spend 2,000 euros on parts when I'm still not sure if this engine is fixable, if it's worth fixing. So what we're going to do now is replace all 4 of them, retime the engine, and repeat the compression test. We got to lock the timing again. So I'm gonna mark this one as bad. Don't forget about the washer. The exhaust Venus unit has been revised by Ferrari/Maserati. The old part number is 271480 and the new one is 295300, and this one replaces the old one. And this is the same for all of the engines that they make, Alfa Romeo, Maserati, Ferrari, whatever. The intake side is exactly the same. So don't forget about this little shim here. Pull the slack out of the chain. This one now comes with this washer here, or a cap. There's just no slack in the chain. The torque spec for the Variator bolts is actually described or worded very weirdly in the repair manual. Titan timing Variator fastening screw to a torque of 120 Newton meters, plus minus 20. Engine oil on Variator mating surface with retaining screw underside, pre-torque 50 Newton meters plus 70-degree angle. Took me a bit to understand what that actually means, but first we need to torque this bolt to 50 Newton meters. And then using this digital torque wrench, we need to do the final torque, that's 70-degree angle, and the digital torque wrench can follow the torque as well. And that final torque should be 120 Newton meters plus minus 20 Newton meters. If that sounds confusing, that's because it is. So first we're doing 50. And now 70-degree angle. Okay, so here we are. 70-degree angle, and the torque is 115 Newton meters, so we are within spec. Now this one. Now we gotta copy paste on the other side. The guys are in good condition. Fantastic. Now I'm gonna remove the timing tools and then let's take it for a spin. Let's turn the engine over and see if we get that snapping noise again from the Venus units. Some, yes.
This time around, both of the replacement exhaust variators was slightly jumping forward and creating slack in the chain. Perhaps this is normal to some degree, my experience with the Vanos system tells me it's not, but as I'm not sure, I put back the old exhaust units and they are solid, not jumping forward.
None of them are going freestyle now, so there's that.
Then I verified that the engine is timed correctly.
Okay, the engine is still in time. Okay, now I'm gonna put back the timing cover, the flywheel, the starter, and then we're gonna do the compression test again. Almost ready, but we gotta put some oil in the engine. We can't crank it over without any oil in it. This is gonna be a huge mess. This is the oil filter, the most expensive oil filter I ever bought in my life. 46 euros. Only available from Maserati and Ferrari. Crazy, huh? We have enough oil in there. Okay, let's give this a shot. Okay, we are a go. Hopefully it won't start pumping out a lot of oil from the turbo hoses and stuff, but let's see. Moment of truth. Oh my God, it's proper mess this now. Well, this one is 8. Okay, hooked up the lines so I can at least direct the oil. So we have 8 bar on this bank now as well. I didn't put the bolt there. Mistake! Maybe I'm looking at this the wrong way around. This is, after all, a low compression turbo engine. And now we have consistent around 110 to 120 psi on all of the cylinders. So the bank that was actually bad is now in sync with the one that was supposed to be good. Now I'm gonna do a wet compression test. So I'm gonna spritz some fogging oil from men into the cylinder, and let's do the compression test again. If it comes up, then the piston rings are worn. It's exactly the same. 8 bars, so 115 psi. Maybe that's normal for this engine.
That's exactly right. When I initially did the compression test with the engine still in the car in the previous episode, we got low compression on bank 1 and high compression on bank 2 where we had timing problems. Now that we fixed that issue by replacing the faulty variator, the compression on bank 2 has come down and is in sync with bank 1. I initially thought the low compression numbers were a bad sign, but as I learned later, this is a low compression turbocharged engine that is supposed to show lower value when tested cold. This means that this V8 engine is healthy and effectively fixed now.
The results are in and we have a healthy engine. Look at this compression. I mean, it's low, but it is a turbocharged low compression engine, and we have from 110 lowest to 120 highest PSI across all of the cylinders. The repair manual, at least for the Alpha one, says minimum 100 psi and not more than 25% difference across all cylinders. So we are well within that spec. And then we have pretty much near perfect leak down test results. Guess who's gonna fix a Ferrari engine? This guy. I'm really in a good mood right now because this engine is healthy after all. A lot of ups and downs and a lot of new stuff that I learned with this engine. As I said, this is my first experience with a turbocharged engine, and it's a Maserati/Ferrari engine. So I'm quite happy with the progress that we made so far. So I'm thinking in the next episode, order brand new variators. Actually, the 2 exhaust used variators that I got, they're not good. I also got that clicking noise and skipping. So I put the old ones back in and they seem fine. They're not jumping timing like those are. So I'm thinking I'm gonna try and return those as faulty because I have no need for them. Then get new variators, new chains, new guides, and also the turbos. The turbos are actually bad. As I said, zero experience with turbos. So I sent videos to Lukasz from Topmar Motorworks from Poland, and he told me that they are definitely in need of a refurb because the wastegate has a lot of play. One of the turbines, it swallowed something, so the impeller is actually physically damaged. Thankfully, no damage to the wall. But the big problem with those turbos is there are no parts whatsoever for them. So they have to make everything in-house and refurbish them. And that's going to be the most expensive part of this, well, rebuild. It's going to cost nearly 3,000 euros to rebuild those turbos. Other than that, I don't know, I'll just get everything else that we need to put this engine back together, gaskets, O-rings. We need to replace the seal on the transmission as well. That's leaking. And then put this thing back in the car. We also got the code for the high fuel pressure or bad fuel pressure on one of the banks. And this thing has high pressure fuel pumps. I haven't looked at the price of them, but I'm willing to bet they're very expensive. So I'm thinking, let's leave them alone. Put the engine back together, start it, and let's see if we still have issues with the fuel pressure, because I need a special tool to remove them and install them, which I don't have. You have to mess around with the cams because they're bolted through the valve covers. Anyway, great progress. I hope that you're enjoying this series so far. For me, it's a lot of fun. I'm learning a lot, great new experience, and it's gonna be awesome if we get to put this car back on the road. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing. I would appreciate that, and I'll see you in the next one. I'm actually off to my honeymoon now. I'm gonna be gone for about 3 weeks, so I'll see you when I come back. Hawaii, baby!